Hello, everyone. My name is Kelsey, and I am the educator behind Classroom to Curtain. And I am super excited today to be walking you through the Audition Notes Tracker template that I've created. Now, this is something that I've used for auditions. I share it with all my collaborators, my music director, my choreographer. I'm often the choreographer too, if I have one, any of the students, or you can exclude students from it because they might be helping as assistant directors or things, but it helps keep me on track. And instead of having to make multiple lists, it auto makes a ton of lists for me as we go through that audition process, which if you're working in an elementary, middle, or high school, you know can be a lot of kids. So I did want to go ahead and walk you through some things because this one has a number of specific formulas that kind of make it work the way it needs to work. And so there are some edits that you're going to have to do to make it streamlined for you. But I promise it will save you time. It will save you energy as you're planning callbacks and the final cast list and everything like that. So let's go ahead, dive into the tracker, take a look at how we can customize it and how you can make sure it is useful for you and your program. So once you open it, you'll be asked to make a copy. And you will see something like this example template that I'm working with. Now you can tell that I've created Dropdowns for the acting, vocal, and dance notes, as well as the callback and the role. You'll see why in a little bit. But if you prefer not to use those as Dropdowns, it's super easy. You can just go in and click delete. You can get rid of the Dropdown itself. And all of that so that you can just use it as a regular notes page. Again, I prefer the drop-downs just because it streamlines things. It means I'm giving similar feedback or getting similar feedback on every single auditioner, which also helps with equity in considering auditions and analyzing them, all of that. So let's go ahead and first things first, let's say this is not the aesthetic that we want to roll with. Let's say that we are doing, let's do High School Musical for this one. Why not? That's a pretty easy one. It's actually what I'm working on next year. So we're going to pick dark red. We want that to be dark red. And while this is great, this title doesn't really match the vibe of High School Musical. So I can go in and change the font to whatever I want. Lexland Works or Open Sans. You know, you have a couple of different, you have tons of options. If you ever want more, you can actually click into more fonts. And one I actually might add here is Bebes Nui is I don't think I'm pronouncing that right. But anyway, it's what we use for my actual school program is that. And I'm going to go ahead and change the title. Now you will notice I did not merge these. That's because it looks a little different, but High School Musical Auditioners. Okay. So there we go. I already have that. Let's also say that Montserrat isn't really my vibe for my program. I can go in, highlight everything, and change it to, again, I'm going to add more fonts because there's a different one that we use at my school. Abner. So let's say I want to do that. Okay. And it'll go ahead and update that for all of them. So now this reflects my program a bit better. You can even, if you want to get super fancy and make these checkboxes a different color to match the vibe, I can go in and make those red and boom. I've got something a little bit more reflective of my program or the show I'm working on for this particular one or whatever it is that you want to have. So let's say I have my first auditioner. And that auditioner is, I love to go with Muppet, so let's go with Kermit the Frog. And Kermit comes in, and I'm just going to go ahead. Sorry, dogs. They may even visit. You can see George Bailey here. I'm going to go in. I can add the email. I can pull that from the audition form. Check out that audition form template as well. At email.com. It's usually the school email if I'm working with students and all of that. Now, at my school, I need to make sure that they have a couple of different things into me before they can even possibly be cast. So I make sure to put these on my checklist because if I don't have these, the answer is a no. I can hound them for it, but I do give them a deadline because accountability and responsibility. But Kermit's all set. I have his permission form. I have his publicity form. I have his audition form. Even before we go into auditions, I have this in front of me because I've been pulling that from my audition form list as I go. Now, he's actually in front of me. He's in the audition room. I make sure he's doing all this stuff. I'm taking a look, maybe the dance combination is first, I can multiple mark these, and you can actually go in and edit what these different things are, the colors or any of that. So if you find that your choreographer, your music director have different notes that they are doing on a regular basis, you can go ahead and put those in. Again, I like to use standardized notes because it brings equity to what I'm assessing and looking for in each student. So I'm going to mark Kermit is a mover, not really a dancer, but he's a mover. He is confident. He's light on his feet. He doesn't really have sharp moves. And he's sometimes a little offbeat and rushed. I don't know if y'all know about that Kermit, but he's a little offbeat and rushed. He does have a fluid style. And other than that, he's pretty good there. So there we go. I have my mover. I have my different notes on him. He sang his song. I think he's a tenor, guys. I'm not a music director here, so I'm going with my gut. And he was on pitch. He has a softer and lighter voice, but he also had good dynamics. So you can see that there are a ton of options for what you can choose. And again, you can even edit these. Acting's a little bit trickier to put into categories, but I did add lead potential, supporting potential, and ensemble potential to kind of help categorize where we think someone is. Again, delete them, use them, don't use them, whatever works for you. He has lead potential. He has a strong stage presence and natural delivery. And then we have some other options in here as well. So you have all these options for this. But let's say there was something that I wanted to add. I'm just going to click the edit button and I'm going to scroll down. Or let's say, you weren't really worried about clarity and diction, or you only think they need diction work or something like that. You can either edit these entirely to add something different. Plays banjo. We're talking about Kermit, so why not? We can add that. Why we would put that in acting, I don't know. But then that will become an option for you. And you could even add another item. So musical instrument. Or let's say in vocal, and if you click done, it'll say, do you want to apply it to all of the other drop downs here? Now, if you're applying it to one, I would say yes, apply it to all, because that's what's going to help it make for work for your program. For this one, I'm going to click just this instance. I'm actually going to undo these changes that I made. But let's say vocal, for instance, and I'm actually thinking I might actually want to add this one in for future. I might put here, and I might add reads music, because that is something that I ask them, or plays instrument. That is something that I ask them on the audition form. Do you read music? It doesn't change their casting or anything like that, but it does give me more information. And when we're casting, information is so, so key to putting everything together. So again, you could apply this to all, and then you would have those available for you at all of them. See, that pops up. He reads music. Great. So we have all of these different things. Now, Kermit's done his full audition, and we're going through everybody, and we're noting our notes here. This is honestly probably where I would put something like plays banjo, also conflicts every Thursday, because that might factor into our casting. We like to hope it doesn't, but the reality is if you're only available certain days, you might end up with a certain type of character, because we can't overload everybody else. So the callback, this is where you're going to want to do some edits for sure. This is where we need to start to change this so that it looks like our show and what we are casting for. So I'm immediately going to go in, because I'm doing High School Musical. And I'm going to update this. I'm going to have Troy, y'all, spelling, typing. It's great. Gabriella, Sharpay. I'm sure there are others. I'm just making it up right now. Ryan, I believe Kelsey is one, but I think she spells it with an I as opposed to me. I'm still doing all my research and prepping. That's part of why this is created. We also have Mrs. Darbus, etc. So you can go in. I have these color coded differently for leads versus supporting versus characters. But you can see that that's ensemble and not cast as kind of where we're going to be going with this. So let's done. We're going to apply that to all of them. And then I'm going to go in, and I think Kermit would be a good Troy. He could be a good Ryan. He could also be great in the ensemble. So I'm just going to click all three of those, and that gives me some options. I can see in front of me who I might call him back for. here is where this list comes in so handy, and what I love about it. But it does take some editing when you first go in and change things like the names of your characters, etc. It saves you time in the long run. It's worth it. You're going to go down to this callback list, and you can see right now that, again, we may need to update this to be more reflective of the show that we're doing. We can make those changes, all of that. Right now it says lead character 1, 2, 3, 4. It's all very generic so that you have that template. This is where you're going to go in. Troy, Gabriella, Sharpay, Ryan, Kelsey, Mrs. Darbus. I think I even spelled Kelsey differently both times. Yay, we'll see what's correct. When you look at this formula, you will see it still says lead character 1. So the reason it says NA is that there is nobody showing up on those lists right now that says lead character 1. In fact, there isn't even a lead character 1 option. So when I go in, I'm going to click under the character. You're going to go into the formula itself. You don't need to change anything else about this formula except for lead character 1. Keep the quotation marks. And I'm going to put Troy. And you will see it pulls Kermit the Frog. Now let's say, pause again. Okay, so you are going to want to do the same thing for any of the others as well. So let's take a look. Let's say that Miss Piggy also auditioned. And we would go ahead and input her email, her information, all of these sorts of things. But right now I'm just going to focus on the callback. So we've called her back for Gabriella, Sharpay, and let's say Ensemble as well, just so that we can see this thing in action. When you go to that callback list, you'll notice not showing up under Gabriella. So we need to change this to match. Again, you're going to want it to be that. Now let's say that you have multiple people called back for Troy. In this circumstance, let's just go ahead and we'll call Miss Piggy back for Joy just because. Then you would see it would extend all the way down that list. Same thing for Sharpay. We're just going to change what that looks like to, and it will go ahead and start to fill those in. Now, as we go over to Ensemble, you'll see that that's already working because I have it filled in currently as Ensemble. So you wouldn't need to edit that unless you were to change things. If you have more characters, for instance, you may need to insert a column, and you could go ahead and label it. And then what you could do is copy this over, and you want to make sure a couple things are the same. So this still needs to be B through B and J through J. Looks like that copied just right because those are the columns that we're pulling from. And then again, you would just change this to be whatever the character name is that you would be inserting there. And you could pull that data if you had an additional character. You can also delete columns. So let's say you don't have a character 12, something like that. You can absolutely go in and delete those columns as well. So there's our callback columns. That's how that works. What I really like this for is sometimes I will notice that, oh my goodness, I've listed like 12 people under callback for Troy, and we don't have that kind of time. Or Kermit the Frog is all the way across my list, and we just can't call him back for everything. That's a lot to put on a student. So I can go ahead and start to manipulate, edit from there with this view, know what I'm actually doing. It also comes in really handy when I'm sending students emails. Hey, you're called back for these things. I would love for you to prepare these items. And that way I can just pull the list of who I need to email for different things. I can also just look across. Kermit the Frog would show up at the top. Miss Piggy would show up at the next row. The only other potential adjustment I could see you having is that there is a case where you may have more than 60 auditioners. You can absolutely add rows to this. Let's say that you have 70 auditioners. I've seen it happen. I would go in and just do some formatting work on this. Go ahead and add the borders around everything. And then you can continue the numbers down by just selecting that, and it'll go ahead and fill out for you. But here's what's going to happen. Your formulas are all set to go through 62. So what you need to do is you would need to go back. 72 is our new thing, and we would just need to edit these to include through 72, and then we would be able to get all the way down on that list to all of the auditioners that we had. Okay, so there's the callback list. That's how I would use that. The other list that this auto generates is a cast list for you. Again, you can make any edits, any changes to this as you need. You can add rows, delete rows, etc. It's currently up for the 62 right now. And these are formatted based on the idea that you would only be selecting one character per one actor, per character until you get to ensemble. So it is important when you go into that audition tracker that when you are looking at a role, you only select one person per role. So let me show you what that would look like. Let's say that we have cast Kermit the Frog as Troy and we have cast Gabriella there. Now, obviously, we need to go in and change these. Oops. Okay. Good. Awesome. Cast list. So this should be pulling. Give me 1 second here. Mm-hmm. 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 I know why it is. It's because I put in lead character 1. I'm like, hold on a second. So we need it to be looking for Troy. See what I told you? There is some editing that you have to do here. And then this one, we would be looking for Gabriella. Okay, so what I like about this is that if for some reason you are working and you have a couple of people that are in the running for something, this does allow you to multi-select. When I go to this cast list, I can see, whoops, something's up. I have too many people selected for this role, and it won't have anything in there until I've done multiple. Now, the nice thing about it, though, is that when you get to ensemble, let's change him out. He's not going to be Troy. I'm going to go down and make him ensemble, and we're going to go down, delete Troy and Gabriella for her. We're just going to make her ensemble. When we get to ensemble, we actually can see that this list can accommodate a number of ensemble members. Same deal here for adding rows. If for some reason you add rows to your spreadsheet and you need it to go through further, just make sure that you go ahead and update those numbers so that it is the full number of rows from the list that you are pulling from, and then it will make sure that it is pulling that to match. You will need to relabel these characters as well. But as you can see, this creates a really easy to work with cast list. It auto generates as you are filling this in. I know it's pretty technical. I know all of that, but I found it to be really time saving for me. My production team has really enjoyed the ease of them adding in notes and our ability to cross communicate with each other, even if we can't find time, because as teachers, we don't always have the same planning time. So sometimes we use this to communicate. And you can even occasionally add, we will add comments in. So we'll do a comment and then tag somebody and be like, hey, could you talk to me a bit more about, like, I know his vocal is a tenor, but like, is there a wiggle room there? Because I'm interested in him for this character. So we have ways to chat back and forth with each other using this document. I hope you find it valuable to you. Please reach out if you have any questions, because I do know the formatting is a little bit complicated, and I'd be happy to help you at any point in time. Thank you so much and enjoy.